Namaskar and welcome to this exciting new episode of Sattology, Debunking Mythology. I have a very special guest with me who has done a lot of research. He's a professor, he's a dean, and he's an educator. He educates people on various topics connected to Vedic culture and traditions. And, and there is India has another name called Bharat, and it's a very old traditional name. There's a whole history of that. If you look at any of my other videos in the past, you'll see what I refer to. And just like in India, you convert to Indic, but when you convert Bharat, it becomes Bharatiya. So when you say Bharatiya, it denotes actually the most ancient culture of the world. So we are going to talk, and there's another word called samskara, which I'm going to discuss with this eminent guest. So without delay, let's welcome Sri Vivek Mishra.
Thank you so much, Sattology. It's a pleasure, honor to be here on this platform. And as you mentioned that something about the Indian or Bharatiya sanskars today, as we all know that the Indian traditions are so very strong and so very eminent and so enlightening. And probably throughout our journey of life, of day, of our interactions, we are continuously performing the acts or the behavior or the gestures, which have such a strong indication, strong commitment towards the religious traditional ethos of the Bharat. We are continuously doing this for the reason just to prepare ourselves as well as to purify and perfect ourselves. Like we not only prepare for the next life, but for the next step. Maybe in the morning, if we are getting up and we want to take the first step out, and we do certain things, we perform certain gestures. That means we are preparing for the next step or the next moment of the day. And similarly in our life also, from the point of conception to the point of our exit from this earth, we are performing so many functions, so many sanskars, so many rituals which we talk about. And they are all very, very scientific these. As we all know that the traditional or sacred texts talk about different numbers. But today we come to know that there are around 16 of them for the lifespan, innumerous for the daily occurrence. But for a lifespan, we have around 16. And those 16 start from the day of our conception to the last rites. And those need not to be ventured upon. But yes, they are definitely very powerful for our perfection and our purification. So, and I link these things to whatever gestures we do, whatever sanskars which we perform, to the scientific nature of, say, let me cite the example of Professor Jagdish Chandra Bose also. He was a marvelous Indian scientist, who did experiments on plant research. And he found that even the plants have emotion. They are directed by the stimuli of emotions and everything. If plants can be directed by emotions, the humans can also be. Thus, to have those, emotional, the blessings, the sacred, feelings of others, the love attitude of others, we not only do perform or imitate those things, they have become a part of our life. So sanskars are not only certain attitudes, they are there in our blood, they are there in our life, and we do them without any impulse.
So coming back to...
in case we need any of them, and the best, the major thing which has come up these days, I believe the Atithi Devo Bhav. Now this is a tremendous, sanskar amongst us. Not talking about those 16 ones. Then we have the, what exactly are we doing regarding fastings and all? Then we have tonsuring things. We have, ways of greetings and, salutations. They are also very scientific, so very important for our daily perfection. So we need to know about them. We need to specify them and sensitize the students regarding this aspect of the Indian tradition.
Now, you mentioned a very important term called samskar, and it's a Sanskrit term meaning experience. So, and
Experiences.
you also maintain 16 samskara, which is like 16 types of experiences.
Exactly.
So coming back to the practical relevance today, how much of these samskaras people actually follow?
Okay, that's very nice that we have forgotten all those 16. We probably remember one or two, say the Viva or the Antesh, something like this. But that does not, direct us to, forget those things. From the 16, we have forgotten, and we remember, of course, the sacred third ceremony or the, Chudakam, or you can see what I have done, this ear piercing ceremony, These are very vital things, And as you say, as you asked, how many of these 16 we remember? Probably a handful, not the 16 ones. And that is the tragic thing. That is the painful thing. Our younger generation should know about them. They start from the conception, please, you know them. And they end at the time of our exit.
So many of the times I hear the words like yoga, samskara, karma, and dhyan, and different aspects in American yoga community. It's a big popular. These are big popular words.
Huh.
And namaste is a hugely popular word. It's a very famous salutation in America now.
Hmm.
But we don't. When we talk about samskar, most of them, and also in India also, they don't know what samskaras to do. For them, it's a ritual. Like they go to a temple, pay some pandit some 500 rupees, and say, "Do this for me," and so that I can get my next job. And without really understanding or taking your car or bicycle to a showroom, they do in US too, Indian Americans. They go take a car and bicycle to a motorcycle to a pandit and say, Pandit,
And
uska puja kar do. They'll say,
शुभारंभ कर दीजिए उसका.
exactly. They get a new, they get a new house. Then probably that's the only time they ever call the pandit. And,
Yeah.
uh, and they may not call him again also. So, what do you talk about superficiality? Where is this thing lost?
This,
Where is
this,
it
no,
lost?
right. First of all, this is not a superficiality, please, Aditya.
No, no,
This
no.
has
No.
scientific relevance.
I think you
It-
you misunderstood what asked you. I said
okay,
why people take this as superficiality. I
okay,
myself
okay.
believe in samskara. I teach samskara. So I'm saying where people have lost it. That's what my question is.
Uh, Probably the race which the people are, facing these days, the race with which they are uh, they are trying to witness the world. That has probably the concept of 2 minutes things, the advertisements which are these days, just spoiling the minds of the younger generation. That is basically responsible for the present, superficiality or the things which are taken in a very lighter vein by the youth. And to some extent, probably I believe, Aditya, the history which you talked in the very beginning, it has been written very, negatively in the Indian context. Probably it could have been interpreted in an unbiased manner, but it has not been. So the historians have had a greater role, say before independence and even after independence, that they have portrayed India into a biased nature of something which is not, a very healthy, not very scientific, not very, and all things which are there in the terms of mythology. So probably the historians, probably the media, probably the so-called learned people of the Western cultural origin, they have been responsible for the downgrading of the Indian traditions or the norms, and they have been moved. But there is an awakening amongst the younger generation nowadays.
No, you pointed out correctly, because if you look at the writings of Macaulay and Max Muller, they said that through education system we're going to produce a class of Indians who will be looking brown but thinking British. So
Exactly, exactly,
they have become the new colonial masters today. We know that was their plan. Now,
exactly.
next logical question comes. I speak to many British people and British origin people also. They Their question is one: in last 70 years of your independence, what have you done to correct it? Because see, and and I blame them again that you put the Babu culture in India to such an extent that India cannot come out of it. India is still running the Indian Civil Services exam, which was meant to create a class of Indians to rule over Indians by the British, for the British, for the British crown. And it's a pretty autonomous body. The purpose it was created autonomous body was to perpetuate the British rule. And the Police Act, still India is governed by the Police Act of the British. Nothing has changed. Indian education policy has not changed. So when you and I understand, and you are doing the same thing which we are doing in the US, we are trying to present the facts from the Sattology, like the Ramayana, Mahabharata, Vyas, writings. But the rest of the people in India, because they are governed by the same education system and the same political system, but no initiative has been taken to correct it. Probably the national education policy, there is some hope from that, which is launched in India recently. What is your view on that?
Exactly. What I feel is that definitely the time span of 70 years is, if you look at it, it's a larger one. But if you look from the point of view of a nation, it's not such a larger one. So we have been struggling for our basic needs within these years, and then the requirements of the things which you have just rightly talked about, that whether it be the civil services or the penal code or the judiciary, we are attempting towards their modifications in the traditions of the Indian culture. So the present structuring plus the new education policy, they all have been directed in the mode of our previous cultural heritage. The government or the state did make efforts, but presently they are more enlightening and more strengthening, cementing.
Yeah, so great answer, because most of the people they accuse, and my answer to that is, when the British left India, they made it so poor. Actually, they divided India into 661 independent states. Their
Exactly,
idea was to
exactly.
destroy the Indian civilization out of deep religious hatred, or whatever they call it. It's not because
Exactly.
of anything else, and that's why they left India so poor. So they cannot mock at us, or Indians, that you are not still able. Why? Because the answer is, your ancestors did not make it possible. You left in a bad with left with a
Exactly.
came with a bad intention, left with a bad intention.
Bad
Both was
intention.
bad.
Mhm. Exactly. And moreover, what I feel is that we were a superpower even in the ancient times. Like, if you look at the literature, if you look at this, science and technology over there, if you look at Mahabharata, Ramayana, you have several instances which the Western world is now accepting it now, which we have had said long, thousands of years back. So we were a superpower at that time. We were at the medieval time, and even today we are that. And for that matter, you have the statistics. How many Indians are working there in the US or the European countries. Who are there in the medical field or the engineering field or the management field. So we are, and we will be. We are going to stay as a superpower because of these traditional norms, because of this expertise which we have developed over the thousands of years of our life.
No, see, the thing is, one of the ways, like when I tell people, is that India is an ambitious society because they have seen what it means to be. The history has they have a history that they have seen what India is. So therefore they know they can, a person can dream only when they've experienced it. So India
Okay.
dreams to a superpower because they were already there once upon a time.
Exactly. They were a superpower, That's it, yes. Because
Now,
if you recall the Mahabharata, kya nahi tha? What was not there, please, Look at, like people mock at us for those, 100 Kauravas at that time. About the Puru incident, about the, Sanjay going to the, field and coming back and, reporting everything. And about the, Astra and Shastra of that time. Those were the, marvel of science and technology which we had at that time. And we still have them, please. We still have them. But yes, as you said, because of those 70 years which we were there, we were basically fighting for our other needs, basic needs, and then only we can, move towards the further enrichment and enlightenment. So we have had all those things, Just look at, Jarasandh. What was that? Medical are not fictitious. Never fictitious. If they were fictitious, we would not have accepted even talked about them today. They would have languished into the history, but we still talk about them. We talk about the Pushpak Viman, Kab Ramayana, So things we had. We were called the Sone ki Chidiya even at that time, and even today, our state or country is forging towards the superpower sense of term, whether it be the solar energy, yoga, whatever you call them. Things have been accepted. Aditiji, cow embracing, please recall that. We did it thousands of years back, and now the Western world is coming to realize that cow embracing is such a healer that they pay thousands of rupees for that, dollars for that. And look at the pandemic. They have taught us, namaste. Now this has become even the US president, went on to emulate that. And the cleanliness, the hygiene, whatever things which we witnessed in this pandemic course of time, we have been practicing for such a long time, please. We are being taught by the scientists today now. Please.
One of the biggest drawbacks of the Western education has been that it has made Indians to look at West at all times, and that was again a design of the British, that anything Western is better. And you already said many achievements which the West is accepting now, which we knew before, including the distancing rules, including we did not have the habit of shake hands. We used to do namaste.
Exactly. Yeah.
We
And
maintained those
even the
distance.
Ashirwad which we gave, that was from, distance.
Yeah. And
What we call as Pratyabhivadan, Vibhadan, which we did, that, we gave in response. That was also from a distance,
yeah,
The Shashtang was from a distance, please. Even the Shashtang was from a distance. So we followed all those things.
in during this pandemic, the Iran was one of the fastest growing in the beginning due to recent pandemic, because their habit of kissing each other on the cheeks.
Exactly.
And that's why they were the highest growing, and I think they've realized that namaste is their ancient heritage, and they have to change.
Now they realize.
They're appreciating.
So what we did long years, thousands of years back, and that was not just out of one's fruitful mind or fancy mind. No, that had been scientifically diagnosed and inhered and then developed in. So whatever we did, even in the thousands of years back, that was all scientific, please. Our ancient gurus knew, but how to implement it, that was given a religious garb, because the Janta was not so very literate to understand the scientific nature or the scientific principles of namaste or the Shashtang or all those things. So our gurus or our rishis made it a compulsory point that the Janta adheres to them, follows them. The garb of religion was added to that. And since religion was regarded as something to be very sacred and to be performed religiously. They went on in this way. And our people were also so very obedient that they performed all such things, all such sanskars, uh, routinely, religiously, and continuously.
So one of the worst thing which colonial, so first of all, dharma is not religion, because religion is
Dharma
different
is not
meaning.
religion. No, no, no.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. That's a way
Dharma is
of
not
life for us.
religion. Yeah.
Way of life for us, please. Right.
Yeah, because the religion means to join back the legion of the Roman army. That's the religion.
Exactly. Exactly.
So dharma is not equated there. So one of the things that we I see is the younger generation. Now, again, it's a British and colonial powers that anything Western is better. And still today, there is a mindset of taking an approval. Like the yoga is popular in India because of USA. Is because
Just
the Americans follow it, Europeans follow it. So that's how you tell them Indians, if they follow it, you also should follow it. So
and and now if they have started, beating or catching our ears, so like we should follow that.
we should
Like we
follow.
have.
You know,
That's so funny, so funny.
so it's like, for example, this Hare Krishna movement, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started in India, but it
Yes, yes.
became popular from the US when ISKCON was created in New York.
Mhm. And,
And
and and and yeah, as you
and
said, the yoga has been popularized by the Western people. Just recall the kinds of exercises which we did while prostrating or touching the feet. Those are all yoga exercises. But for our common man, the rishis and gurus said, please do these things. Do shashtang, touch the feet. They are all exercises, sir. Even this is an exercise. And so the other several ones. Yoga was there, but for the common man, such practices were introduced, or they were ingrained, so that the common man can do those as part of a sanskar, not yoga. The term yoga was not coined there, but lately, of course, recently, such exercises have been given the name of yoga.
so if we look at the Indian history, and we are talking about Mahabharata, you mentioned there, and from after Mahabharata, the history has been very badly written. First of all, facts are absent completely. Medieval history of India is lost. In fact, when they say
Mhm.
medieval history, they say only Islamic history, which we know Islam was an invasion.
Exactly.
So not a it. So invaders' history cannot become the history of the land. So it has become the history
That's
of
right.
the land, and the medieval history of all the kings who ruled or fought against the invaders is not there, not being taught.
Ah, that's totally.
So this generation and next generation and one generation before, all three are lost in a way. And through, now we are using the social media to bring that awareness a little bit. We can't do a lot, but whatever we can do, we do. So the the Western terms have defined Indian consciousness, like religion, like
Yes.
the many other terms are there which are used. One of them is civil. Indians are
Exactly.
told to be more civil, to accept the invaders. Secularism, which is a French word, French or mostly French or Greek word,
Mostly French, mostly French.
and it has been introduced that only Indians or Hindus should be secular, rest nobody should be secular. So what do you call this? Is it still going on? Isn't it?
It's yes, it's still there, and it has been there till recently. But the best point is that the awakening has started. Best point is that not only like the platform which you have brought up, the younger generation is also very inquisitive. They are reasoning, questioning, putting up things, going various places. They are more into the deep finders rather than the generation of ours. Probably we accepted And that was our sanskar, please. Like what our teacher said, oh, that's all accepted by grace. And what our parents said, that was all accepted. But the present generation does not follow that to in total. They take it, no boss, what is the logic rational behind it? Let me know that. And once they are satiated for that, they welcome it. Otherwise, they are off. So they have the resources, they have the inclination, and we have the heritage, please, which is very strong. So it is going to be a reawakening for the present generation. And it has shown, it has amply visible in the present world.
Yeah, one of the things you mentioned about the younger generation, and you can give me more information because probably I may not know. Many of the schools
Please.
in India, and I'm talking about the convent education, which is, if you look in the European context, convent means only Bible education.
Biblical, yeah.
It's only biblical. And the main scripture of India is Bhagavad Gita or Vedic scriptures, but generally people accept Bhagavad Gita as the summary of all the Veda, generally summary,
Okay.
because it's a word. So when you talk about convent education, and which is purely means biblical education, and you have Bhagavad Gita, because most of the students in those convent schools are Hindus, majority of
Mm.
them.
Majority, much.
Majority of them are Hindus. And so in the house, they learn Bhagavad Gita. In the school, they learn Bible. Don't you think it creates a confused mind?
Uh, I would rather, deviate from, no, differ from that in the sense, because I've been witnessing, going to the schools and colleges even, which are convent, please. And there is a shift now in Jabalpur, I can see, of course, that the students, when they are performing their, plays or acts or, cultural activities, because I'm basically involved with that, they are coming up with plays which are depicting the Indian traditions or the Indian culture. And they are even having all those hymns or the mantras which as Indians we should know. So there is a shift in the not I won't say education pattern, but the overall environment is getting a shift, wherein the Hindu traditions are also marking their steps in the convent schools and colleges as well. No doubt, the Bible is being taught. The day starts with something, by the principle on such, biblical things. But the whole day is not marked by such activities. So here again, the younger generation is now being, not totally polished or, superficialized by the English Western ideas.
You mentioned the word hymn, and it has a very, very negative origins. It connects with the hymen.
Shlok,
And,
shlok, please. I
and
should I should have said that.
yeah,
Yes,
but
shlokas.
most of the Americans who are watching it, they understand where I'm coming from. The word hymen, it comes from, and I don't have to go deep into that.
No, 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 no. Okay,
And
sorry.
so the coming back to the you said the education in the convent schools, and and see, most of our audience is also very dharmic in nature. They may not be from India, but they're dharmic. They have faith in the Indian cultures, and they go to Rishikesh. Many of them are laughing, and I can see their faces on the side screen, that they go to India, they go to Rishikesh. For an American, uh, the 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 dogmatic aspect of Abrahamic faiths is not attractive at all, and the openness of dharmic culture is acceptable, because it is, like you mentioned, it's everything is has a purpose, has a meaning, and the whole existence becomes very meaningful. The But when they meet an Indian coming from India in the USA, they find that person to be very illogical. First of all, they try to imitate American accent, which is
Okay.
makes it more funny.
Yes.
And the second thing is they have doubts over their own culture, and when they present their own culture, it's with such a shame, as if they should not be doing it.
Mhm.
And they tend to represent, like they try to prove that how they are more respecting every other culture in the planet. You know? But from an Western point of view, it is, you need to show who you are. Who are you as a pure identity? And that is lost because they do not understand that history creates identity. And that's why we call it Sattology, not mythology, because it creates identity. And that identity gives you confidence, and that confidence gives you original ideas. And so Sattology, if you believe in truth, then you will automatically be innovative because you're creating something on your own.
Exactly.
You look at
Exactly.
the cultures like Japanese are is an offshoot of Hinduism, very clearly. They have their own culture and they have a pride in their culture, and they are creating some of the best cars, machines, everything. Then you have Chinese now. Chinese have a very strong national identity, whether it's right or wrong, but they're very proud of their own identity, and they are doing something in the world. And when it comes to India, they have more skills than many other countries put together, and they have more cultural background, but that identity is lost or is not taught. What is your view on that?
No, you're perfectly correct. Probably the reasons you yourself stated in the beginning, that the what we learn is from the Western historians. What we learn is a different language. For example, like if you go to any Indian student, he may not be even knowing Sanskrit, and whatever is existing or we have is in that language. So we are getting interpretations of our own things in some different forms, biased forms. Thus, we ourselves don't know the exact meaning, nature, or the relevance of such things. But once we are asked to adopt them or perform them, we become dogmatic. And when we leave the country, as you said, and we are in US or some European country, we because we are not so much aware about it, we don't have the knowledge about it. Thus, we try to, feign ignorance, feign our, inability towards performance. We just rely on, or say we take the garb of secularism that we have respect for everybody. No. First of all, I should say that we should start our deliberations in our own language. We think in our mother tongue, but deliver or communicate it in a different language. You said about Japanese, they do everything in their own language. Chinese, they do everything. Of course, they have started, and that too only for the professional or business activities that they have learned the English language. But look at the irony in India that you are considered to be educated only if you know English, only if you can wear a jacket and a pant something, then only you're educated. Look at Mahatma Gandhi. How did he travel to England and every other place? Of course, he in the initial days he too had those inhibitions. He was wearing in the Western garb, but unless and until we have the totality of it, we cannot be a true Bharatvasi. We cannot be truly educated about it. So language has to start first. The communication has to start first. Then, firstly, the outer world should change, and then we can go inwards and clean our impurities and imperfections regarding our beliefs, our thoughts, our actions.
I
So
think
probably Aditya, it's something to do with what we have started.
so. This is just the beginning, and I think we established some key things here, that the identity comes with swabhiman, which is a respectful or respect for your own culture. Swabhiman is respect for your own culture, not pride, but respect
Respect.
for your own
Respect. Yes.
culture, own traditions, own language. And then you can start correcting other things also. It's
Exactly.
not everything is politics, because it is not a
Exactly.
political topic. So if India is a Vishwa Guru, I always maintain it, and I always say it has been a Vishwa Guru. But now India has to start claiming it by spreading. Like, for example, I gave a
Because
talk
like
on.
in India, Aditiji, like if you talk about a lotus or a saffron color these days in India, like you are branded somewhere in. But we know that in our tradition, the lotus or the saffron color has such unique and such a vibrant and scientific acceptance. And like if you name it today, you'll be branded somewhere else.
Well,
That is
Lotus is in every city of China, everywhere.
and that's different. But in Indian context, like if I and you go and mention lotus, we are branded, please. And that
The entire Shanghai is filled with lotuses.
exactly,
They
exactly,
use lotus as a symbol because that's what Buddha stood for. So it's not
exactly.
they have pride in that culture. If you look at their things and products, they put lotus everywhere. Lotus colors they use everywhere.
Even
So
even even our constitution has been depicted, illustrated the original constitution, by all such things. The Mahabharata, the Ramayana, the Buddha, the all the kings and the civilization which we had. If you talk about them in the present stage, you are gonna be politicized, be carved into some category which may not be acceptable. Even the present political culture does not accept them. What we did some 70 years back, please, we can't do them right now.
in a democracy, if the people change, politicians have to change. It's very clear. So sometimes
Uh,
in India,
no, no, no. The situation is slightly different. The politicians are changing, please.
no,
The
that's what
people
I'm
are
saying.
the same.
If the people
The people
change,
are the same. People are the same, probably, with their level of understanding and the zeal and commitment towards the society or the nation. But something has gone wrong amongst the higher echelons.
no, in a democracy, if the people start demanding, politicians have to change. There is a famous politician in India. I won't name him. He wore the janeu over his jacket.
Just look at that. Just look at that.
So if the people change, politicians have to change. It doesn't matter. So it's a grassroots movement we're
It
talking
was
about.
so funny. Such actually so nice.
So I think the problem is, the solution is, and many Americans are watching it also, and the solution is, if India changes, like for example, everyone complains about Indian textbooks in India, and they complain that why the Western world depicts India in a wrong way. But the solution has to come from India. When they change their textbooks and they start de-recognizing Western universities, whether it's Oxford, Cambridge, or like if you do a degree over there, you're not accepted in India. If you just pass this law, it's over.
Exactly.
And the
Exactly.
moment you do that, they will have to change their textbooks. They'll be forced.
Why not start with A, please? Why only A, B, C, D? Probably if you ask a student about A, B, C, D, he'll spell it out in no seconds. But if you ask him about the E, he'll be struggling to go beyond 4, 5, or 6. That is the irony. He can recall G for gentleman, but he cannot recall G for something gaon or something like this.
Now, that
So
is
we have to
mostly in
make
the English medium schools. That's mostly in the
exactly,
English medium schools.
exactly. So we have to make a start at that level, from the ABCD of things, and probably the other, basic elements of our outer world, and then we can go inner.
What France has done is, if you do not teach French in any school, they
Exactly.
don't give you government grants. You're not recognized. You can run as a
Yes,
private school, but your student will not get government jobs. And
that's so nice. That's so nice.
so if France has done it,
Get
you know, India follows France in many ways, left wing, right wing, all these terms are French terms. Why not they
Exactly.
follow this simple rule of the French too? That if you do not
Exactly.
teach vernacular languages, whether they're Tamil, Telugu, Hindi, Marathi, whatever vernacular languages are there, I consider them the main languages. And and when they teach, make a rule that you will be funded by the government or recognized by the government only if you teach that as part of the national education policy, everything is changing within a minute. By next month, it'll be over.
I'm sure you must be aware about the draft NEP which came out and then the final version which came out. The major cause of conflict was the things which you talked about, the language, the three formula or something. The government wants that, but the politics decides not to have that. So it is something which has to start from the top. We choose, the democracy chooses the person, but the people at the top, they are somehow not able to translate those aspirations on which they have been elected. They have been elected. So the aspirations of the people get lost somewhere. That is the irony of India, please. We don't come and in an election and vote for something which we don't want. Promises are something else, and the actual realities are something different, in the Indian context. So we should have the politicians or the executives in the Indian nation of same nature, same perspectives.
No, very interesting, and thank you, Vivek Mishra ji, for your valuable time today. And
Yeah.
thank you, audience, for watching it. You can watch on the YouTube and comment on it. And we'll come back with another topic shortly. But thank you so much for coming on the show today. We really welcome you and we love your views. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. Thank you, Atidiji.